You are now listening to the ANR Design Unholstered podcast with Alex Costa. All right, guys. I'm Alex Costa, your host. This is episode 28 of the ANR Design Unholstered podcast. Our guest today is Marcus. Marcus, please just introduce your brand, your company, what you do, and why you do it.
All right, so what's going on, guys? Marcus. Some of you guys might know me on Instagram as Sky Pirate Actual. The company that I own, or that me and my wife also own together, is Cloaked Co., which is a training company developed strictly, well, actually, not strictly for anybody. Actually, it's for pretty much everybody. So we like to teach people how to gain entry in a non-destructive fashion. Mainly, the reason that drives the whole non-destructive is because if you're not working for an agency or some type of apparatus that'll take pretty much the hit for whatever you destroy, then you're going to be completely liable for whatever damage you cause gaining entry for whatever reason it is. It can be a good reason, it could be a bad reason, but either way, you're going to be on the hook for the damages. So, yeah, we teach fucking everybody. We teach firemen, police departments, military, the prepared citizen. That's one of our favorites. Pen testers, just security professionals in general. So that's what we do.
And you operate out of Colorado, Denver, around it?
No, I operate out of North Carolina.
North Carolina. Why did I think Denver, dude?
Because that's the last class we taught. So.
Oh shit, dude. So that's what it was. You're like, for some reason I thought you were out in Denver, dude. You're way closer.
Yeah.
Rad.
We're brag, man.
Perfect. I'll be down there for some business soon. Yeah, I'm out of New Hampshire, but that's rad, dude. So that's kind of like, I was like following some other lockpicking pages, and then you got reposted in a story, and I was like, oh, that's kind of, I think it was one of your override tools. I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher language today, but your why can't I remember words? Today was a long day. I had one of those days where like I had like 42 phone calls, but I had to drive and do errands today. And it's funny. I talked to like Chris Costa for like 2 hours, and my last name is Costa. So when he calls me, I'm like, Dad? He's just like, you motherfucker. He's a cool dude. Some people don't like Chris, and you know what? Chris has always been a man of his word to me. He fucking gets the job done, and he's a talker. So we were just talking about lasers today. So my brain is absolutely fucking mush. So you did a braw wire hook mod, and it works. I tested it. It's cool. I tried to copy it. Like, I was like, send me a picture. Like, okay, that's about that distance. And my engineering brain's like, all right, like, I got it. And try to copy it. It works, man.
Love it.
I gotta polish it a little bit. It's a little abrasive. I use like a Dremel to clean it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do a lot of like, you like to make your own, you cut your own keys, you make your own picks. You like fucking with pick blanks and figuring that out. But for the common listener here, like, I started getting into lockpicking a few years ago, and I bought some kits, and I bought some Sparrows locks and the window locks, and just messing around with it. And I've got some soft buddies that have come by the house and given me anti-detention kits and all kinds of cool shit. And so I have all these like kind of cool knickknacks that I can't really show people, but I like down to like those elastic bracelets with a lighter wheel on them for breaking auto glass, like just stuff like that just makes so much sense that people don't realize. But break down like a quick how to get started for the common listener.
So there's a couple of ways you can go with this. So I won't even say it's a fork in the road. It's more like 3 prongs, I guess. You can always self-start. I am a huge fan of people that self-start. So me and my wife self-started together pretty much. And it's the slowest road, sadly. So you have to go through all the mistakes. You have to buy all the bad shit. You have to find out personally that it doesn't fucking work, that there's quality control issues all over the fucking place. You can do YouTube University, which also good. There's tons of material out there: Lockpicking Lawyer, Bosnian Bill, Dark Arts Lockpicking, Uncensored Tactical, and I know pretty much of all of them. So all those guys put out amazing content for people that are just getting into the game, or you can find a reputable instructor. And I say this is the best path, not because this is a money grab. That's the furthest thing away from it. Do I like to make money? Yes, but that's not the primary reason. I say that because I operate as an instructor in two hats. So I operate as an instructor in the Army, and I also operate as an instructor in my own business. A good instructor is like a fucking time machine. So it is taking all of the blood, sweat, and tears and money that I've spent in the last 4 or 5 years learning the craft and condensing it into 2 fucking days for you to be able to use this after you leave the class or any of the people that I refer other people to. So I would say those are pretty much your options. You can self teach with no with no content whatsoever. You can hop online and learn from YouTube University, or you can go get an actual instructor to go teach you everything. Which I think that's obviously the fastest route. So,
Well, good. I mean, there's a couple good reputable instructor classes out there. Only a couple that have only caught my eye. It's pretty much been like you and Sear pick. There's a couple people local that do teach lockpicking to like civvies out here, but I haven't really heard much about them. So it's kind of like even down to like Surly Dirtbag, the
yeah,
Canadian dude. He makes some cool toys.
good dude,
Um,
man.
I bought one of his like scalpel or his
Yeah,
razor ones, like because like it honestly like some pair I have I wear cool pants,
cool pants.
and they had a model that I really liked because I could put my wallet in a zip up pocket on the leg, and then I could fit like a lockpick set. Like I could fit more on me, and it was more spread out, so I like had a lot on me, but I didn't look like I was carrying a lot of stuff. And I'm an asshole. I carry like a Staccato XC with a C2 grip, a 21 round backup mag. Like I
Oh,
usually,
man,
dude. I'm a big dude.
all day.
I'm 6'2", 250. Like I can make it work. And then it's funny when I'm not carrying. I'm like, damn, I look so fucking skinny, dog. Like shit. People think I'm fat. You get the dudes like, who's this fat tattooed loser shooting these machine guns on YouTube? I'm like, I'm carrying a lot of guns, bro. Um, but I was carrying it, and then I switched over. Like, finally found a pair of pants that I really like from Cool, and then I had like no fucking pockets, and I'm just like, this sucks. Like, where am I supposed to put my shit?
Oh, fucking hell.
So I saw his like little scalpel doodle, and I'm like, yo, that rake I can pick a lot of shit with.
Oh yeah.
And I like the way it's kept. I throw it in my back pocket and call it a day now. I mean, it's good for like super simple locks and some harder to pick locks, but
Mhm.
are you a City Rake fan or not a City Rake
Nope.
fan?
Nope. It's like
I
so
hate City Rakes.
me and my buddy City, we go at it all the fucking time. We'll have like meme wars, like at least once or twice a year, where we're just shitting on each other for our fucking pick choices, and it's pretty much a tradition at this point. But yeah, City Rake is not the fucking way. I got my
Follow
fucking
City too, dude. and
it
and
on
it's
the head.
funny because he's like, it's always funny seeing the comments being like City Rake all day. Like City Rake works for like, yo, if you want to lock pick that fucking paper towel dispenser in a bathroom, bro. Um, something that's like super simple that something with too big of teeth is just gonna like not do the job, but like that's
Yeah.
about it. Like
Okay, so I'll set the record straight here. City Rake's fucking trash. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I seen it's usually it works in extremes, man. As either City Rake's open just like doo doo fucking locks, or they open really complex locks. It's like there's no in between though. So
yeah.
I think people really excel with it, and I've seen the obviously people excel with like the Bogota. I think it's just a lot easier and it's more intuitive to actually use than the City Rake. But I have seen people work some fucking magic with the City Rake out. Actually, a dude that used to work for me, Goodman, he's one of my grenadiers, and he also picked locks. So we just so happened to connect on that. He's worked for me at the same time, and the dude has picked some crazy high security locks with fucking city rakes. I was like, fucking how? How the fuck did you do that? You know? And I'm like, meanwhile, like I have to like zone in pretty much on single pin picking. That's why I'm as good as I am now, is because I can actually I'm good enough to diagnose what the fuck I'm feeling with pretty much anything that I'm picking.
I mean, I can see with how narrow a city rake is, where you can kind of like you can either rake it or you can like get a little articulate with it, so you're using it a little bit outside of its like intended purpose. But I mean, that's my perspective as someone who's
So
fucking dumb at fucking lock picking. Dumb in
I'll
not a
even
good way.
I'll even what do you think a city rake's for?
Simple ass shit.
Then
Like your shed key.
why? I'll ask you the why.
Because the teeth on those smaller keys are so subtle that you can just blast it through and it's good enough under tension.
So so for the city rake. So when you look at a city rake and you look at a key, right? They look super similar.
Yeah.
That's why. It's because the city rake is supposed to look and mimic a actual key. So those ridges and stuff, they're by design so that you don't the rocking motion that you're supposed to use. I won't say you can only use it that way, but the rocking motion you use with it, you're supposed to mimic different bitting sets of a key. So
It's so small.
Exactly. If you get like a thinner version, or some that have some different spaced out versions, you might even be more successful with other locks.
Yeah, not me. Nope, not good enough.
He's like Bogota or bust, bitch.
Yeah, for real, dude. It's one of those things that I'm like, okay, I got my 5 locks, my tiered set from fucking, I can't get past lock 3. I'm stuck on 4, And then one of my soft buddies is like, yeah, this level 4 lock kind of fucking sucks, dude. I haven't done this in like fucking 10 years, and I'm like, oh shit. But he's like blasting through 1 through 3, and I'm just like, it took me longer. I try this every night. I have like a little jeweler's vice that I clip onto my dining room table, and then I have a placemat setting to the left of where I eat dinner. I let my wife sit at the head of the table, just because we like tag team feeding my kid, and I'm so like I have to be outward facing always. Like I'm facing like the windows. Like I'm just a paranoid motherfucker. And so I'm just sitting there facing the windows, and I have like the other placemat setting with all my lockpicks in my fucking vice at the dining room table. She's like, "You get rid of your fucking lockpick set." I got a little bump hammer and all kinds of shit, and I'm just like, "No, this is where I hang out. Like, leave me alone. I don't have good lighting up in my office."
Have a literal box of locks and a training stand sitting to my left hand side right now, and that's my wife hates it, dude. She's like, "I know this is like our business, but." Fucking Christ, can this shit go somewhere? I'm just like, no.
And like your training stand, like people don't understand, that's kind of big, like where you mount doorknobs and shit too, and all kinds of stuff. What do you I bought some leashies, and I really enjoy the leashie picks, understanding the individual pins. I'm still not good at picking locks with the leashie because it's like that tension, getting the tension right and still being able to push the pins up. It's like cheating but not cheating, because like you can obviously I know how to measure the pin moving, but picking it with the leashie, I always fucking like not enough tension. I can hear a pin drop, and I'm just like, fuck. That's my hardest. I think tension in picking. It reminds me of like when I learned how to TIG weld, like speeds and feeds while TIGging, and feathering your pedal while feeding your rod in making your little circles with the welding head. It's one of those things that like it took me like a year to figure out that nice balance to weld like stainless steel, like thin gauge stainless. So it's like, fuck, man, it's one of those things, trying to find that tension, and that's the magic, is the right tension while still being able to pick the pins. For at least me, is finding that balance. And
you are spot on. You have no idea how right you actually are. That's like pretty much the golden fucking rule in the space. Is like people think picking is like the hardest. Tensioning is actually it's the enabler. So if you can't get the enabling portion correct, you're not going to get anything else correct.
Yeah, That's what I struggle with, honestly, is tension. Either it's too much tension and I can't move the pins, or too little tension and I'll be able to get some pins to hold but others to drop, and then that's like such a defeating sound where you've got your first pin is held, your second pin's held, you're on to your third, and then you go to the fourth and it's kind of stuck, so you just alleviate tension just ever so slightly and you hear, and you're just like, oh my fucking Christ. I don't know. That's what I'm struggling with. So on the complex locks, dickhead lock.
Worry. Hit me up. I'm free time. I got you.
So do you sell lockpicks?
Yes.
Okay.
So over on cloakedentryco.com, we sell lockpicks, we sell leashes. We actually have fucking half of our stock sitting in the other room. So yeah, we sell just about everything on our website. So we have our plug spinners, that's one of my favorite tools now.
They're cool.
Plug spinners, man, life saving. When you get over, and this is kind of a tangent, but I was a fucking purist when it came to like the entry roll. Like I was like, if I can't fucking pick it the right way, fucking not getting done then. If I can't, and I'm just like, dude, fucking stupid. Like, so I'm like, when I start doing it in real life, I'm just like, it doesn't fucking matter if I can do this shit right, as long as I get the fuck in, you know? And I was like, all right, cool. After I kind of like came to that realization, I was like, oh, the plug spinner's a fucking game changer. So I talked to some SWAT buddies of mine too. These are a guy on IG called Second Story Guy or something like that. SWAT dude. And he was actually talking to me on a live. And he's like, you don't use a fucking plug spinner, dude? And I was like, nah, dude, I'm a fucking purist, bro. And he was like, bro, game changer. So he fucking actually mails me one of his old ones he used to use on ops. And I used it, dude. I was like, I've been fucking up for a while.
I don't have one. I have to get one. That's what I was talking to Chris today about. He's like, cars, we teach VCQB, dead. Trying to get out of your car, dead. Like, and that's like that one thing that we were talking today. I was just like, dude, why isn't every fucking reputable training company only teaching small unit tactics right now? And then doing small unit tactics with night vision. Why the fuck is everyone focused on CQB? Fucking like when I say CQB, like, well, let's clear your house by yourself, bro. Like, why are people teaching that? Like, night vision classes are cool, but you need to have a small unit tactics night vision class to boot after the fact, and have it only focus on small unit tactics. And like, I feel like that's going to be the new change in training. Is everyone right now, like, he was telling me he was teaching like a low light, no light class, and like 20 dudes showed up with high end night vision, and like 2 people didn't. He was like, dude, people are fucking flexing hard with night vision these days. Well, it's becoming more available. The prices are coming down a little bit. No, it is in a way. So, well, I mean, I'm not here to like talk shit, but I bought my first set of tubes from like TMVC, and it's like you got to roll the dice when you buy from TMVC. They're like, this is the range that you can buy. Well, at least at the time. I don't know how they do it now, but at the time it was like, you can get this spec to this spec, and you don't get to choose. So my buddy over at Licentia Arms is like basically being so transparent with what you're buying. Like, you can pick your spec and pay for the spec that you're buying. So he's kind of like changing that game, and so you're not going to roll the dice anymore. You're going to get what you pay for. And so long story short, it's like everyone's doing these night vision classes, and obviously when you take a night vision class, you could have the dude that has all this money that's never shot on night vision. So you have to start from like super basics and work your way up. But it would be really cool if people were doing like an SUT class where you had to sign up a group of people with you, like your fucking battle buddies. Because like CQB, you can't do CQB by yourself. You need battle buddies, and you need to be training all the fucking time.
Yep. So someone that I will highlight right now, good dude, very angry individual, but at the same time, like, he is like the type of leader that I had coming in. So I recognize the personality, and I'm like, that makes sense. So if you guys look up Strife 17, he only trains groups.
Fucking Marshall.
Dude, Marshall, man. He only trains groups, and I was like, that makes fucking sense.
And he charges a lot, dude. It's $3,500 a group. It's dude, I've known Dave for like a decade.
Dude, really?
Yo,
This
you
small?
want here? I'm gonna give you some
Bro.
dirt on him.
Oh,
He hates 45 ACP. That motherfucker used to run a Scar Heavy in an FNX 45 Tactical.
oh my
I made
god.
him, and no, this is the best. I made him, dude. I think it was my first FNX 45 Tactical light bearing holster I ever made. In ATAX AU was for him. This was
Oh,
like 9 years ago, and he left it in his fucking truck in the summer on the
oh,
dash in Arizona, and it
oh,
fucking pancaked.
yep.
And I'm like, he's like, hey, your holster's defective, bro. And I was like, did you leave it in the fucking truck with the windows up in the summer in Arizona? He's like, yes. I was like, Kydex is a thermoplastic. He's like,
Yeah.
fuck. I love him so much. It's really funny because I was talking to another buddy of mine that I met in Texas on a hog hunt, and we were talking about small unit taxes. It was like 2 nights ago. Was this last night? No, 2 nights ago. And he's like, dude, I'm trying to save up and get a bunch of boys to do a Strife 17 class. And I'm like, yes, this is the way. This is
Yeah.
the fucking way. I have a small, very small, we need more people. I have a small group of dudes that I shoot with and a very wealthy friend that books out classes, and I hop in all of his home. He basically pays for all his homies to fucking train with
Oh,
him. And I mean, we get to do some really high level shit. And the training companies that we work with know that we're at that level, so they'll
mhm.
teach us some high level shit. And it's a lot of fun. I shoot PRS too, and
Yeah. I was tracking. I seen a couple of your comments on some of the pages. I was like, oh,
ooh,
okay.
I talk shit. I
Oh,
gotta stop. Why do you do this? Or yeah, sick misses, bro. Like my favorite's like watching like some dude that doesn't shoot long range buy a Raptor and then just like talk like, oh, I have this $10,000 piece of equipment and now I'm gonna start wanting to learn. Like, no. You can measure your targets with your reticle. You can interpolate your muzzle velocity and actually interpolate your dope based on known distances and target sizes. It's really fucking easy. It's like pre-math for high school. Like it's you don't even need to know algebra to like get through this shit. Um anyway. Small unit tactics. I really hope, obviously night vision's hot right now,
yeah.
but I think in the next 3 to 5 years, if a trading company is not focusing on small unit tactics, they will be failing.
They're gonna. Yeah. So I will. So I had to talk about this with. This came out when the whole. Who was it? The German, was it Redbeard Tactical? Redbeard.
.de.
Yeah, Redbeard DE was
Hey.
with fucking Lucas Bach, and then Lucas made that inflammatory fucking post about like all the like 20-year veterans that didn't teach any of the Americans and stuff like that. And dude, I was actually fucking hot when I saw that. I was like, hold the fucking phone real quick. I was like, so I'm not gonna talk shit, but I am gonna say this
This is
piece.
perspective.
This is perspective. I was like, okay. I was like, clearly we have been blind, or American people have the fucking memory holding ability of a fucking goldfish. If you told a person that you were going to train them and that you were just an 11 Bravo or you were just an infantryman, no matter how much fucking experience you had, they would have told you if you weren't wearing a Green Beret or a prior CAG, Navy SEAL, they would have told you to go fucking beat your dick on a fucking hot rock. They would have told you to kick fucking rocks, stub your fucking toe, you ain't shit. That was pretty much the industry for the last 10 years. It is very, very recent. Like you were sucking off soft dudes left and fucking right. You told a fucking dude to go throw in a fucking ruck, go pound sand for fucking 12 miles, plan a fucking mission, do reconnaissance, and we're not even gonna talk about the whole recce fucking craze. I can talk on that shit for days. Um, yeah, yeah. I was like, but you guys, like the general public did not give a fuck about being an infantryman, knowing infantry tasks, skill level 1 tasks, and executing those tasks. No one gave a fuck about that. Everybody wanted to do CQB. They still do. CQB nonstop, 1R1s on the fucking range. Like that was the hot. It was literally the craze for like, I won't say 10 years, but I would say a good 5 to 7 years of the industry was nothing but that.
It's still that way. And
Yeah.
to me, the quintessential fucking soldier is a goddamn Marine and an 11B. It's
Yep.
like they have done more, spent more time getting shot at and shooting. Maybe they were out of distance and didn't get confirmed kills all up close and personal. But long story short, your quintessential most experienced soldiers, in my opinion, historically have been your normal Marines, normal 11B. That's it. They've seen the most combat.
Yeah. So what? So when I saw that, dude, I wouldn't say I lost it, but I made a post after that. I was like, you guys got some fucking goldfish memory. Like you get for doing the same shit for 7 years, and now like you're like, oh, there's no way to put shit out. Brent 0311 was a Marine putting out shit for the last like 10 years, just giving free fucking chicken, dude. Building fighting positions, fucking camouflage, all this shit that's a hot topic now. Like this dude's been putting that shit out for years, and no one knew anything about it.
Right.
You know, I won't say no one knew about it. No one gave a fuck. Difference. It's the non-sexy shit though. That's the stuff that will keep you fucking alive. Like fucking simple ass fucking bounding, Overwatch, fucking
patrol.
Literally,
Patrol everything.
Like, fucking setting in a defense, knowing your fucking primary, secondary, tertiary, supplementary positions, knowing how to set up a fucking a claymore, you know, just everything, fighting positions, fucking intersecting fucking sectors of fire. All that shit is the things that'll keep you alive. Motherfuckers staying up at night, you know, when it's fucking cold and you want to just be in your warm sack and just sucking it the fuck up, being cold and miserable all the fucking time and just running on nothing but hate and fucking nicotine. That's literally like half of the job.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I really hope the fad of CQB stops soon. I mean, you know, I'm glad like Grand Thumb did that thing with Orion where basically they prefaced the entire CQB video with, you're going to die if you do any of this by yourself. But we're going to show you what you could do if you needed to do it. And I liked how they prefaced that. Yeah. You know, Mike gets a lot of hate, but I'm glad he does a lot of preface now. It's like, okay, we're not, this is obviously like this high speed cool guy shit, but you're going to die. Yeah. And I've also noticed a lot of range theatrics lately. I'm in this gun group on Facebook, and this dude who, this is not to insult him or his little group that he trains with, but they're definitely like trying out for JV and they're doing collegiate level athlete shit. So he was this training company out of Idaho, I forget the name of it, and the dude has a SWAT background and a Marine background. He's a Marine that has a SWAT background that's teaching people. No, it's a small company. I've never seen them on Instagram. They're not like a presence, but it's like this something fucking training bullshit. And he like posted this video where he fumbles up a mini ram on a door. And then the dude that his number one dude is not stacked. He's like in the middle of the threshold after the fucking ram. And then the door, like, he like pies it and then the door shuts. And then that's the end of the video. And this gentleman is like, yeah, I fumbled up that ram. That's my fault. It's like, what the fuck are you guys learning? Like, I didn't serve. I don't have a background in that shit, but I've been fucking shooting and taking classes for fucking 11 years. And I'm allowed to do some high-level training with some of the companies I work with. It's really tight. I'm really lucky to get that opportunity to do some shit like flashbang a room and actually call for breacher and like practice this shit. And with my friends that I train with a lot, but this poor guy, he's like, oh, I fumbled up this fucking mini ram, and I'm like, dude, the dude next to you, his cummerbund is hanging off one side of him. And he's not even pieing the door. He didn't even cross the threshold. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And then he's like, oh, well, we were doing mini ram breaching. And I'm like, why is he doing mechanical breaching when you guys don't even know how to clear a room? And then it's like, and so I started chiming in like, you got your money taken from you. And like, this guy's like, I hope I go back so I can get certified for, he wants to be some prison guard or work for the, you know, the prison system or something like that. I hope this gets me certified. I'm like, no, don't ever give this dude money ever again. This dude stole from you. He gave you range theatrics. You know, you're doing fucking quantum physics in fucking college right now when you're in pre-algebra, like in high school. Like, why the fuck are these non-accredited training companies exist? And it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. I can't say how I figured it out, but like my uncle called me, Lone Star Boars down in Texas. Huey kills like fucking 7,000 pigs a year. Probably has more gun on tissue violence than anyone on fucking North America. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, this special boat service dude wants me to come and do some classes with him in Egypt, Texas. And I'm like, oh, geez, like Egypt, Texas, in the middle of fuck all nowhere. Like, where's a fucking UK cat special boat service end up there? Mm-hmm. So I made some phone calls and I was like, this is the dude. Is he legit? And just ask some friends. Is this dude legit? It comes back that the dude was never boat service, was like an ammunition storeroom dude that stole ammo and that got dishonorably discharged in the UK, like bounced to America with his wife and somehow picked up an Accuracy International contract. And Egypt, Texas is like training feds as if he was like an SBS sniper and is advertising himself as an SBS sniper. And I was like, how the fuck does this dude not get pinched for stolen valor? Not only was he a criminal in the UK, how the fuck did he get out of the UK after like stealing ammo?
Yeah.
And then now he's telling people he's a like boat service sniper? Like, this doesn't make... So my uncle like called him back. He's like, yo, I heard you're fucking Royal Marine that you stole and you're just a fucking fake. And like line went click, you know? And it's just like, dude, why? It's like in a digital age where we can figure out anyone's background. Why the fuck would you lie?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for that tangent. Stop training people range theatrics.
And vet your fucking instructors.
Dude.
Vet your... Holy shit.
I hate it. It gives me so much cancer. That poor kid posted something that he thought did wrong on a mini ram, and we're just like, dude, no. Don't ever spend your money with these people. These are the reputable people in your area.
Yep.
Take your time. Don't do this shit.
And here's the thing too, like having a reputation, it makes those circles very, very, very small. Incredibly small.
Yeah.
Incredibly small. Like, I know by name all the instructors in the entry space. We probably talk on a weekly basis. Like, you can't get certain bullshit past people. It's like, all right, they're good. You'll know if they're fucking good or not. Like, real fucking quick. But yeah, even guys with really established backgrounds, I've seen a lot of them putting out some bullshit too.
Yeah. It's we talked offline about Soft Week down in Tampa. That's special operations conference. We go for our equipment, but there's some, after parties and stuff. And when you see the same faces at the after parties, 5 years, people representing their countries as delegations for their tier 1 units, and it puts in perspective how small the special operations community at the high level and how like it's so easy to fuck up and get PNG'd. And the even down to like some of these higher tier units doing training, there's still questionable schools. Like a lot of internationals come to US to train.
Yep.
Excuse me, in private organizations, and that's why I've been such a huge proponent of. So our local like Ridgeline Defense in New Hampshire is amazing, and they're across the street from Team O'Neill Rally School. Team O'Neill Rally School has been so heavily involved in training like special operations for evasive driving, off-road vehicle recovery. Like that's like been a huge portion of their bread and butter because it's expensive to take rally classes as like a normal
Yeah.
day. So like, you know, we're talking thousands of dollars to take their 1 week rally package. Like thousands and thousands of dollars. So now, you know, their bread and butter is teaching soft dudes how to drive. You know, and now Ridgeline's literally across the street, AR shooting facility. So now you can start to blend the two communities together, the driving side and the shooting side, and then pair that together and actually do driving and shooting and all that cool shit. So I really like, that's why I spend a lot of time up there, because it's just the wealth of knowledge that I get to learn is so great there. And there's a couple other places that are like that. Shaw shooting out in Idaho, mid South. South is so great anymore. I don't say that in a bad way, just people are moving elsewhere because there's a lot of other options now. No one's gonna understand what the fuck we're talking about. But anyway, it's just everyone comes here. So how do you, you know, there's a reason why people are coming over to America to train.
Right.
You know, it's great because all these other units globally, they have their own ranges, they have their own training facilities, they have everything they need, but they're still coming to America. So something to be said about that. And then again, like you said, the training community, your entry community is so small. Training community for these tier 1 units is super small, and most of these companies that do allow training for soft train civilians, like that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
At least learning capabilities. So do you have any entry? Let's go back to entry. Fuck, dude, I'm
a tangent.
I'm probably gonna cut most of this from the fucking podcast. Honestly, probably can't say half that shit.
Keep it.
What?
That's a keep it.
I don't think I said anything bad, but
No, I don't think so either. I think we're discussing pretty general shit. I would say generalities. So
yes.
I don't think for real.
All right, so at 40-20, let me take a note real quick. 40 minutes. Sometimes I'll take notes at like 40 minutes, like trim some of the fat off of this fucking rant because I had a whiskey. Podcast clip. 40 minute. Yeah. I'll have to review it, but it's one of those things I just don't like. I'm still clipping this. I'm gonna pause. Pausing. All right. So if someone wants to get in, we already talked about the training element of getting into lockpicking.
Yep.
But if someone wants to pick it up themselves and start at least tinkering, I know me personally, I'd like to have like some sort of grasp on things before I take a class, just so I have a better so I can at least track what the instructor is talking about.
Yeah.
So where would you get started? What is your suggestion on how to get started? Maybe what picks people should pick up? What locks are good beginner locks for like off the shelf purchasable stuff? Like obviously everyone makes training locks.
Yeah.
That are tiered, and those are great, but I mean, I feel like master locks and easy things to override and pick up might be more real reality.
Believe it or not, I actually hate training locks with a firm fucking passion.
Switch out.
I don't think they mimic the real tolerances of real locks. And so, I started off
tighter.
No, I won't even say that. It's just that you don't get the same feedback from those locks. I don't know what the fuck it is about those locks, and I don't necessarily care to find out either. But I started off with the Sparrows. I had the same ones, the 1 through 5, the 1 through 4, and then I had the revolver. And then after that, I just started using real fucking locks, like real locks that real people use every fucking day. And you can go to places like what is it? Habitat for Humanity restores. You can get tons of locks for like $5, $10, $14. You can walk away with like fucking 10 locks. Wow. Real, like in like Schley, Quickset, fucking Emhart, you can walk away with like real locks that are coming off of real doors that were in usage. And so I actually tell people to go do that instead, because you get to actually feel what real feedback feels like from real locks and locks that have been in use for a long time, that are really fucking crusty. Some of them are fucking super worn, and you'll see that it'll be a different result every fucking time, but you're still getting that width of experience from things that you're going to run into in the fucking wild. And that's primarily what we like to teach in the class. And my favorite phrase in the fucking class is kill. What is it? Kill the hobbyist in you. Fucking kill it. Let it die. Don't just be sitting on the fucking couch fumbling with fucking locks. Get up, sweat a little bit. Put a little bit of sweat equity into a craft that, if you want to produce results, if you ever have to use it in real life, if you're expecting to ever use this, so especially for like the firefighters that we taught, the fucking anybody in the military, people that are expecting to use entry skills, I'm like, I'm gonna make you fucking work for it too at the end, because like you're expecting to use this. So the things that you're gonna run into, I'm going to mimic those things for you in class. So like you're gonna like for the most part, any place that we go teach, we ask them off the rip, like, hey, can we use your facility to actually break into your fucking facility? One of the first things we ask is, a lot of people aren't okay with it because it depends on who they're with, or if they actually own their facility and they're like, yeah, dude, fucking go for it. Like, this is all for you to use. Like, we have, we're doing a class down in Refugio, Texas with Dark Corner Concepts. And he's like, I asked him today, I was literally like, hey, can we use your entire facility for the students? And he's like, absolutely. He's a Jews got everything, dude. I was like, oh, that's what I'm talking about.
That's cool.
So
playground that shit.
Playground the fuck out of it. And I'm like, this is going to give them the largest breadth of experience for the shit they're really going to fucking see. Because at the end of the day, like, it's not just lockpicking, right? Because we teach lockpicking the whole first day, mainly because it's the hardest thing to teach. Because it's all about feel. It's none about what you can really see, unfortunately. So teaching people how to feel for those things is a fucking process.
Yeah.
So obviously raking is something that can be taught pretty fucking quickly. Like, hey, here's some techniques, try these out. Remember to keep an eye on your tension. And then usually most people start burning through fucking locks, right? But then we also start teaching the single pin picking portion, which is my portion, because I delve into that heavily.
Yeah.
So coming down to like a science of how to get zone in on the feelings so that they can start picking up that right away. Because at the end of the day, if you can't break something open, you still need to be able to diagnose what's happening in the obstacle that you're facing. So this whole second day is, well, I won't say the whole second day, but I would say a good portion of the first day and the second day are bypasses. So bypass is fucking king. Anyone that's in the fucking interest space will tell you that. If you can bypass your way in, you don't fucking touch picks. And I'll be honest with you, I've picked my way into a lot of things. I have bypassed my way into far more.
Okay.
Far more. And then a good portion of the last day is creation of tools, right? Because the people we do teach, once again, some of these people do this for fucking work. And a lot of guys, we have gotten soft guys. We have gotten guys that, some spooky types that travel in and out of countries that you cannot get caught with fucking lockpicks. You get caught with lockpicks going to a fucking Middle Eastern country, they're going to lock you up as a fucking spy and they might hang you.
Right.
So we teach people like, hey, you can carry like some tension tools. No one knows what the fuck a tension tool does by itself. And quite frankly, it's useless by itself. But we are going to teach you multiple ways of building your own bypass tools and your own picks in country with things that you can find around. So that's the thing that we spend a breadth of our time on, is creation of fucking tools. So that's kind of what separates us from our other, peers in the space, is that we focus very heavily on creation of fucking tools.
And that's how many other entry instructors teach that. Is that something that's standard, or is that something that's a little bit more niche?
It's definitely not standard. So there's some people that have taught it, but they don't. They kind of gone into their own kind of subsection of things that they like to teach instead.
Right.
I would say maybe me and maybe one other person kind of touches on it, but no one goes in depth as much as we do.
Yeah, I like that. My buddy Kerry Davis, Pocket Doc, he's Dark Angel Medical. He does he does a bullets and bandages class I used to teach at SIG back when he would do it, and he would leave chip bags and duct tape out, and if you needed to do a chest seal, you'd tear open the Cheetos bag and then create a sacrificial chest seal. It does the same thing, so it's kind of how can you do emergency medical with what you have if you don't have trauma kit. And it could be as simple as duct tape and a chip bag or a Ziploc bag, something to seal the sucking chest wound or whatever the fuck it is. And I like that. I really like classes that do improvisation of, fuck, I slurred that word, improv of, you know, tools and resources with what you need. And I think more people need to do that, because I don't know how many times I've needed a tool, like even like gunsmithing. I'm at my house, you know, I gotta punch a fucking squib load out of a barrel, or I gotta fix something and I don't have a tool for it. I have a tool at my shop. I don't have a tool at my fucking house. How can I accomplish that with something else? So I think that's super important. People need to be thinking outside the box, not just be like, oh, well, I can't do this, guys. You know, obviously then that becomes forced entry. I'm kidding. But and I know you've been posting some forced entry stuff. You know, I know that like Ed Calderon posts some forced entry stuff. I think having that range is important. You know, I still keep my bolt cutters in my truck and some other forced entry stuff in my vehicle. I'm anyway. Long story short, someone's getting into this, and like so you gave some tips on go Habitat Humanity and grab old locks. What picks should people start with?
So I normally go with, usually the two I recommend are the 2500 series set from Cloaked Entry Co. You could also get it from lockpicktools.com. There's some, I guess you can go, the Covert Instruments also does their own pick set as well. But normally we recommend the Just a Civvy kit that we sell exclusively on cloakedentryco.com. Because one, our buddy obviously made the kit, so obviously, but he put a lot of thought into it, and honestly, it's a great set, and it was actually one of the most popular selling sets for the last like 15 or 18 months. Like just burning it. So yeah, that's the set we give out in our class. So that is like the thing we sell for our newcomers. It gives them a nice base of single pin picking with 2 picks and then 2 raking options.
Is that included in the cost of your classes? They get Yeah, and that's one thing people don't. For people listening, if you are going to take a entry class, most of the reputable companies, the part of the cost, and you'll see this cost, you're like, oh shit, $700 to learn entry. A lot of that cost is attributed to, you know, one, you're picking their locks, they're giving you lock pick set, so you get your own beginner set or whatever they're including in with it that you get to take home with you after. So you're going to be beating up your own picks. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize that they get kit with them. When they go to these classes, so you don't have to necessarily, you can show up with your own shit, that's great, but you also get stuff in the class too.
Absolutely. Like you're going to walk away with more than just the pick set too. You're going to walk away with quite a bit of other tools. Also material, class, learning material, USB drives with like the POI. So if you ever need to go back and reference something, you can always just plug it into your computer and go back.
That's cool.
So yeah.
That's
and then
awesome.
you get a community out of it too. So like we always tell people at the end of the class, I'm like, hey, this doesn't stop here. So like, you ever run into something in real fucking life that you can't figure out, fucking hit me up, dude. Fucking hit me up on IG. Hit me up. Like most of them have my phone number, so I'm like, hey, just hit me or the wife up. We can fucking help you get through whatever it is that you're trying to get through. And we've gotten those calls.
That's cool. And I'm sure students are also trading digits and kind of leveling up together and figuring that shit out. That's cool. And we were talking about small unit tactics. People need more community. Like it's not just, you know, I bought this hype beast shit and cool on Instagram. It's like you want to be part of something. You want to build each other up. You want to interact with people that are more advanced with you because it's the only way to get better. Same thing with shooting. You should always punch up, not down. So it sounds stupid, but I've been teaching a lot of. Dude.
Oh man, what's up?
So I shoot a local PRS match, and the first match of the year, it's always sequential. Like first stages on the left are always the long stages, and they've always started sequential. So if you're in squad one, you start in the long stage, and the long stage always fills up with all the pro shooters. And I'm trying like, and I don't know why they don't mix it up. Like whatever squad you're in, you get a random start. But I feel like this is no discredit to the people that put these matches on. They do a great job. But it's always the pro shooters, squad one shooting the longest range first thing in the morning when it's dead wind. And by the end of the afternoon, it's a fucking windy, gusty shit show, and they're on the shortest stages. And it's like they pre-game, they're gaming these matches, and it bums me out. So like I was in squad 3, which is the next stage after the long range, and then I'm ending on the long range stages when it's windiest. And so I'm like, oh fuck, I missed out on squad 1, so I went in squad 2. So I'm at least gonna start on the second longest stage in the beginning. And then they didn't have enough like attendance, so they put us to stage 3, and no one was shooting stage 2. And I'm just like, I figured out the game, and the game beat me still. And it's like, it's fucking, it sucks because like I end up getting stuck in squads with like 80% novice shooters. And I end up spending the entire match focusing on helping them not blow money downrange and at least get some impact so they feel like better shooters. And I enjoy teaching people. I really fucking do. But it kills me when I can't shoot with like pro shooters, because when I do shoot in a pro squad, I end up performing so much fucking better. It could just be down to like comments that stick with me, like my buddy just being like, yo dude, trust your win tables, dude. Fucking this is consistently this is the tip for this range, trust it and fucking send it. And then I end up, especially my buddy, he's a pro shooter, and he's like, one day he did the same thing, trust your win tables, dude, like you have the right call, just trust your table, stop walking it in and out. And I did, and I won the match. He was like, I'm never fucking coaching you. You know, but that's how like I digest it. And I shot I had a son, and my son was born in the spring. I missed the entire like beginning of the PRS, and then like halfway through the year I switched calibers to 6 Tiger and like learning a new trigger and a new gun and new fucking recoil impulse after shooting 6.5 Creedmoor for 5 years. And it was just like weird, man. And I'm just like, I was shooting like 15th to 20th when I'm usually top 10, and bumming me the fuck out. But I was shooting with like squads of dudes that were like, we had like a little community going, like a lot of dudes that I shot with, we always shot together in the same squads. And then they kind of, some of those dudes stopped shooting, some of those dudes stopped traveling to some of these other matches because some other ranges opened up closer to them. Like my Vermont dudes are like my favorite dudes to shoot with.
Yeah.
And they stopped coming to like the Massachusetts and New Hampshire shoots. They're just like, oh, we'll shoot upstate New York and Vermont only, since that's, we only need to qualify at 2 different ranges to like qualify for PRS series, pro series. So they never come down anymore. I never see them. And like, those are the dudes that we would just like fuck with each other really hard, but they were, you know, we're incrementally better than each other every other match. So we're always pushing each other better, and we're always climbing the leaderboard. And then that stopped, you know, and then I ended up shooting like 5 matches in a row this year with like novice shooters. And I felt myself like
flipping,
like so focused on trying to help them shoot well, that I'm not building myself up, you know. And that's that tough. That's that you're like in that limbo stage, you know. You're just like, I'm so close to being better, but fuck. And I feel like that would be something with lockpicking. Like you need a community that builds each other up, rather than like you're a novice lockpicker that you're confident in up to a certain level, and then all your friends want to learn from you. You can only teach them up to a certain point. You're not getting better.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't get help until I was really good. I went like, because COVID hit, and literally I had nothing to do, you know, because the Army pretty much shut down essentially, you know, when COVID started. So I wasn't even going into work for about 5 months, and, you know, until we deployed again. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, and that's all I would do. I was coming up with fucking designs. I was working with like my buddy Dave Harville, our Variant One, to come up with some other designs and stuff like that. So it was just like, I was I was fucking grinding, dude, non fucking stop. And so I was just getting like newer shit, like high security, throw it at me. And dude, Matt Fiddler or Sear Pick, man, honestly, I consider him a fucking mentor, honestly, because he fucking was always just like, here's something extra. Try it. He sent me one of the hardest fucking locks right before deployment. And he's like, he sent me a book along with it. And he's like, the answer's here. And this is a thick ass book, bro. I've yet to pick this. He's like, it's not that hard, bro. I was like, oh my God, dude. Like, this dude's a fucking savage.
Send me a fucking book, dude.
A fucking book with a fucking 5-pound fucking Medico biaxial.
Oh my God.
Leaf casing. And I was just like, fuck me, dude. And dude, we were doing a withdrawal, man, and I had 3 grenades strapped around my fucking nutsack. My fucking fanny pack, my ruck was like 120 pounds. And we were doing this 2-mile movement to leave this place in Iraq for the last time. Like, we fucking gotten rid of it. We handed it over to the Iraqis. But they were still trying to like kill us on the way out. So we were just like, okay, like lied about where we were leaving from. Blown up the field like 2 times prior to that. So I was like, yeah, we're not leaving from there. And that's also where I got some reps too with the whole entry thing. Cause I carried my bolt cutters on my back of my kit the entire deployment. And so I had to like make my way through, some service yards and stuff like that, cutting my way through fucking fences for an entire fucking battalion to walk through, or not an entire company to fucking walk through to get out of Iraq. So that we were doing it fucking dead of night, rolling out to these little dark spaces, fucking cutting shit out, but putting it back so that no one can see that, like, hey, someone's been here. Right. So I had to like strap all that shit up. And then
well, the fact you hide footprints for a company. I mean, obviously, like, they're just looking like, is the fence cut? Like, they're not looking that close, but
so the way that we did it, we only move at night. So we essentially just did a staggered offset for every platoon. So every platoon would leave at a different time and take a different route. Okay. But it's all the same spot. So everyone had to have their own kind of route, but it would, like, as soon as you get towards kind of like that last position, you kind of have to walk through the same spot.
Okay. So you're kind of breaking it up till you gotta leave the rail tracks. But at least if you're hiding the chain link fence cuts, you're making it discreet. You get enough time between IDing lots of foot traffic to a potential hole in a fence, long enough where you're safe.
Yeah, fences. there was quite a few fences, but no, it was dope though, man. Like, not dope thinking that you might get shot the fuck out of the sky, but dope as in like, oh man, like, I'm already in the space and like I get to actually like put some extra stuff forward, and and because once you're like known as the guy, you're the guy. For like,
go get Marcus. Like, he's the one that cuts fences.
So we this last time in Iraq, so drone usage became. So the first time we started seeing drone usage, I was in Mosul in end of 2016, early 2017. And the drones back then they were just using them for like swarms. They were usually like a precursor to like a VBID, suicide attack. It could be any of those things, right? Seeing them again in 2020, vastly different, dude. The game is fucking changed. Holy shit. These were like full on, like, one of the drones I was seeing looked like almost as big as a fucking Q1. I don't know if you know what a Q1 Reaper is.
I do.
But the thing, fucking Cessna. So I'm like, that thing's massive. And I thought and every time you see a fucking drone, you were probably about to catch some indirect that night. 9 times out of 10. It wasn't like super often, but the munitions were getting larger every time they dropped them. So the first time it blew up a helicopter that was sitting on the airfield. After that, it landed like right outside of our sleep. Well, I don't say right outside, but I'd say like probably a few hundred meters outside of our sleeping area. But that fucker was huge. And I was like, okay, so they pretty much made the plan that like, we're not going to sleep here anymore. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to break into somewhere else, stay there at night, and then come back in the fucking morning, because none of the attacks were happening during the daytime hours. I guess terrorists have fucking day jobs.
Apparently. Legendary.
Like, okay, well, and he's like, all right, cool, we're gonna go fucking break into some places, and that's exactly what we fucking did. Broke Just stayed there overnight and then fucking came back in the morning.
Do what you gotta do, dude. Drone warfare is like terrifying. Like
It fucking wild.
seeing the new Chinese swarm drones is like loitering, explosive 200 unit swarm drones that converge on a target after loitering in random patterns and then converging into an attack pattern and blowing up in
dude. We had stuff for drones like Drone Defender, Drone Buster. Like college kids made this shit, man. Like this shit is not like I'm like, oh no, I'm not trying to face the fucking drone swarm.
Dude, there's the anti-drone technology is pretty wild, and I'm only gonna say we make holsters, and drone technology is kind of like guns, and we've already been working with anti-drone companies on stuff, and it's pretty fucking cool shit, the anti-drone tech. And hearing some of like, oh yeah, we don't know the actual distance that our fucking cone of, you know, jammer is good to, like, they don't have an idea of how like the effective range. It's like scary, like, oh, we might take down this fucking, you know, DJI drone, but take down a 737, you know, fucking 25 miles away accidentally. Like, it's the anti-drone tech is terrifying right now because they just don't know the bounds of how far their frequencies are effective to. So that's terrifying. And then the drones itself is terrifying. And even down to, dude, I saw a drone at Soft Week that was the size of your palm. Had a rocket pod on it for like number 2 pencils size rockets for anti-sniper hide killing. Like
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
It had a little rocket pod on it, and I'm like, what's that? Like anti-personnel rockets. And I'm like, hold on. What? You have a fucking pillbox of rocket pods that are short range, you know, sub 10 meter rockets that just and kill whatever you're shooting at. So I mean, it's like you're looking at the shit where it's like, okay, we're suppressed by a sniper. You can't poke your head out because you're gonna get whacked. Let's just deploy this 40 millimeter size drone with, you know, a medicine bottle rocket pod on the side of it. Just okay, we know he's over here. It's got a micro thermal on it, like, and it's in the fucking fucked up shit is it not only has a rocket pod, but it's also got a loitering, you know, explosive payload to boot just in case. And you're just like, so do they use these for surveillance? They're like, oh yeah, we blast these around. You can do surveillance. This is your battery life. This is your rocket pod. You know, if you figure out where your sniper hide is, you can go in and fucking rocket him, and then still use the drone as a loitering munition to kill somebody else, or at least wound somebody else. You're just like, and this is the size of my seltzer can. You're like, all right, well, we're all fucked. Like, Skynet is happening. And
AI is already online. Yeah, fucking. We had like Black Hornets, which were again palm of the hand, but the rocket pod, that was brand new to me, dude. I was like, what the?
I mean, obviously it was like all like conceptual shit, but you know, I'm just like, do you really have, you know, non-guided micro pencil rockets with shape charges attached to them that go off within 10 meters? Like, is this real? And I mean, it looked like a rocket pod. It had to be a rocket pod. I mean, it looked like a Vietnam era fucking Huey rocket pod attached to the side of this thing, and I'm just like, huh.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a hard target to shoot. You know, it's not the Cessna size drone going by, or, I mean, that's terrifying. How small and how deadly can you get these things? So we're talking AI, digital. How important is frequency entry, digital entry? You know, watching like some of these dudes build out RF analyzers and emulating electronic locks. It really brings it full circle that electronic doesn't necessarily mean more secure than.
Oh, it almost more, I won't say more often than not. The way it's implemented more often than not, it's not. Because people, let's be real, the crux in security 99.9% of the time is humans.
Right.
So you can most advanced shit ever, but if you're too lazy in the implementation, you're always going to leave holes, which guys like me are going to fucking exploit. So
like people wearing their badges clipped onto their belt, and that is their RFID card behind their ID.
And me snatching your credentials off your card and then me walking in as you. Like that's...
Oh, you're in line at Subway trying to get a last minute sandwich. You're wearing your fucking so-and-so, defense manufacturing company fucking card hanging off your belt. And then, I could just bump your fucking...
Oh, sorry, man.
Oh, sorry, I bumped into you and I didn't hear the beep of your... of your flipper or something in your pocket, and you're like, well, I got your UID now, and I know where your fucking employee entrance is. Like it's that scary. Part of me wants to like take my flipper to Vegas and just like check, because like I know like insert key card, that's one thing. Yes. But now Vegas is all like touch, and I wanted to like kind of fuck with my hotel key card with it just to see if I could work on it, but there's so much surveillance in the hallways. I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble for going through my own door.
So for the key cards for the hotel, so I've tried it myself. I wasn't successful with the hotels, but with actual 124 megahertz fucking RFID cards for like MeFair or MyFair. There's a few other ones too. MeFair Classic. So you have to figure out like pretty much which one is going to that card, and then you can kind of like go on it if you want to. I've done it with some IDs. I'll say that.
With permission, guys. We've asked our friends for permit. Nope, stop rolling your eyes. All about permission.
All about yeah. So I've gotten it to work. I've done it. I've cloned. I've actually posted a video of it working not too long ago, actually. I would like to say it's within the last 5 months. So it's definitely doable. I would say with the flipper, it is vastly harder because of how close you have to be to your target in order to get it. But you can also make your own RFID sniffer. I'm pretty sure you can get this stuff off of like eBay or even like Amazon to make your own. And then also make essentially like an antenna to extend the range to like 10 feet. So you don't have to be like exactly up on a motherfucker to get it, but you can be like in line with them at 10 feet to snatch his credentials. There's lots of videos on it too. There's some good people drop a lot of good candy online about how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, shit. There's been a lot of dudes jacking cars too, holding up the antenna array to someone's front door and snatching, emulating and stealing their cars. And I think Toyota, like the Toyotas, it's like a range. You can go 10 miles before the fucking thing finally decides to shut off because it's too far from the fob. It's a far distance for the Toyotas, and it's far enough to get doinked. The vehicle's been...
That's gone.
The vehicle's been picked up by a secondary vehicle, and now it's gone.
Yeah. Mobile chop shop.
Mobile chop shop for sure. I know. Like, do you like Unleashed, or do you do Rogue Master or Unleashed?
I have Unleashed on mine right now.
I have Rogue Master. I want to try Unleashed. I
haven't used it nearly as I haven't gone as in depth with it as I've wanted to, but
yeah. I need to get on the Unleashed and switch to Unleashed, because everyone's like, why did you choose Rogue Master? I was like, this guy here. And the link you sent me was like so fucking old, and I had to like start reading Reddit threads on how to use it, and then I finally like clicked on how to do it, and then I was able to get it. But yeah, it's kind of spooky. Some of these like free GitHub how to download. You can download the stuff, and then lady's got a Honda. You see a lady get out of her Honda 2017 in the parking lot, and she's hanging her keys off her purse, and if she's not paying attention, you snatch her keys real quick, go to the bathroom, emulate the fucking key fob, record your sub gigahertz frequency analyzer, save it, and it's rolling codes with the tough one.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say it's actually it's a lot harder than they made it look because of the rolling code. So like you might get it to work 1 out of 50 times.
Yes.
And it could absolutely fucking destroy that remote on top of that.
Yes.
I've done that too.
Yes, you can destroy the remote. And it's like, yeah, you can punch, so you can use the sub-frequency analyzer, and as it's running, you can keep bumping the button, you can keep seeing the frequency, and sometimes you get sometimes the rolling codes are only like five rolling codes. Some of them are a lot greater. So sometimes you're like, 139.44 twice, sick, like, all right, and you save that. But I haven't been able to get it to work with a lot of things. Like, again, like you said, you have to be super fucking close, like up on its dick, and like even the charge port for the Teslas, like, can't do it if the car's on. You have to be within like 3 to 5 feet.
Too close for me.
It's too close. It's fun. Like they made that device seem like it's like this fucking end all be all thing. Like electronic bike locks. Like, okay, I was watching that dude use it on electronic bike locks, like overriding those. Those are okay. That's cool. Like, that's easy. Late at night, no one's paying attention. You can be right on it. You could, they only have maybe like 2 rolling codes, but yeah, they definitely made the flipper seem like it's like this end all be all fucking hack everything device, and it's really not.
So I think where the flipper what makes its money is the fact that you can make it like a rubber ducky. So you can actually like install hacks via like the command line or whatever else on there, and you can like put malware on shit. That's pretty fucking cool.
2-step verification override is terrifying.
Yeah.
So like, cool, you break into someone's house, you steal their fucking laptop, and that person's like, oh shit, my laptop's stolen. Well, I have a password. Overriding their Windows or Mac OS, and then getting into their saved passwords where you can't even see them. Doesn't matter. They might get a 2-step verification code request, and then you can punch through it. That's the shit that's where the flipper definitely excels, I think, is 2-step verification override, bad USB stuff. That's where it definitely excels. But you have to have already been so intimately close to someone's belongings to steal those belongings. But at least for like digital theft, I mean, most people are like, oh, my shit's password protected. It's, they're going to have to do a factory reset so they can sell the laptop. It's like, no, you don't. I can steal all your shit. So I think that's definitely the spookiest part of the flipper is the bad USB. And not necessarily a sub gigahertz remote. I mean, it's cool going like trying to watch a fight at like Buffalo Wild Wings and it's too quiet, and you're just like, oh, turn the volume up. Or I don't want to watch fucking Friends while I'm eating a steak at this fucking steakhouse. Like, oh, TV off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's some dude. I don't know if you ever watch or listen to Darknet Diaries. That's where you start. That's where I got my kind of like eye-opening moment, how shitty things are. And I started listening to them like a few years back, but I was like, damn, dude, this shit's wild. But yeah, that also kind of kept going in the entry space. I love this shit, man. I love breaking into shit. Dude, it's so fucking fun, man.
It comes down to like, there's a lot of people like, why do you want to learn lockpicking? Why do you hunt now? Why do you want a homestead? Why do you want to learn water purification? Why do I want a solar panel array for my house? Why do I want all these things? Well, at the end of the day, I look at men. You don't necessarily have to fucking, I think a man is measured in his capability.
Yep.
I think you should obviously be master of a few things, but what are you capable of? You start a fire. You know how to garden. Do you know how to make sure the soil is good for growth? Do you hunt? Do you know how to clean an animal? Um, you know, have you killed things? You know, like all these dudes burn all this fucking money downrange every year, but have you actually gone under night vision and shot pigs in Texas or
Yeah.
pigs down south? Like that is a great test of your equipment, your capabilities under night vision, and you turn that switch. It's just a pig. You know, some people have done it their whole lives and don't care, but a lot of these dudes haven't ever shot anything. You know, and then
Yeah.
you find out that soft units are doing raids on pig herds in Texas on private ranches to get new dudes who've never shot at people to shoot. Like shooting a pig at night has been described to me by soft dudes as ambushing a bunch of dudes around a campfire. Like it's no different in some regards. You know, they don't have nods on. They see like us in the dark and they scatter because they don't want to get fucking killed.
Yeah.
And there's no real direction to where they scatter. They're literally just running, hoping not to die. And you know, there's soft units training on fucking targets like pigs.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, you know, people that's my like fucking mantra is like capabilities. Can you do this? You need to. So, you know, not great at lock picking, like to be better. You know.
Yeah.
Like are there things that you want to do for capabilities in your life? Like is there stuff that you're like fuck, like something that you didn't learn in the army or not lock picking, but you're like fuck, I don't hunt enough.
Come on, outside.
Puppies.
Yeah, he looks like he's about to shit himself, so kick him out.
Butthole pucker.
Come on, outside. Come on, fathead. Here we go. Oh, fat-headed pit bull. But yeah, so things that me and the wife have tried to pick up over the last. Well, we picked up gardening one. We're gonna build some chicken coops here probably within the next year.
Yep.
So yeah, that reliance thing's huge. Shit, what else? We've already been building and stuff like that in general. Like if you buy a new house or you buy a house in general, like you're gonna get good at some shit.
Yeah.
Immediately, like having to change out like all this shit. Even for like the courses, building shit for like props and stuff like that. I can definitely get to be a little bit more like mechanically inclined. I would definitely say that's a thing. As far as weapons go, you can always get better at fucking weapons handling. Like I'm not really a long range guy. I've always been just rifle and pistol. So hopping, which is funny because my mentor was also a long range dude, but he also taught me how to shoot pistol. So, yeah, getting in the long range is definitely something I'd like to do in the future, but I know that shit's super. So.
No, but you said mechanical, like 2-stroke small motor repair, super important. Like,
yeah,
how do you convert a lawnmower into something else? Like, it's got a fucking drive shaft. You can put a pulley on it. Like, what can you power with a lawnmower? Or, I want to get into solar. Like, I watch a bunch of dudes on YouTube. I want to build a whole house battery to power. I have a propane fed house for water, but
yeah.
I had an HVAC system put on. Can I get a solar panel array to pay for that? Because I'm paying asshole money right now for electricity in the wintertime to balance out the asshole prices for propane, which are, and then I have a wood stove. So I have 3 ways to heat my house, but I'd like to find and the wood stove's great. It puts a dent on the cold days, but like I can't just feed the wood stove all day long. I have to go to work. My wife has to do things. So, you know, I'd like to have a 4th way to kind of power my home, just because I live in an area where we lose our power like 12 times a year. You know?
Oh
damn. We had a great power company in New Hampshire that got considered a monopoly by the feds, so they had to section off certain portions of their network to other companies, and we're on another company's grid, and they treat people like shit. So, you know, it comes down to like, okay, they don't do a lot of maintenance upkeep for limbs and stuff, and they're running like 1950s unshielded wire for their power to all these, you know, places all over New Hampshire. You know, what the fuck is actually going on? So it's you know, I live out in the middle of nowhere and it's great, but how do we control that and control it a little bit better? You know, we're off water treatment. Everyone does drill wells in New Hampshire because it's granite state. You drill into fucking granite, you're releasing radon, which is, you know, radioactive, gives you cancer. And then when you drill into granite, you're also releasing arsenic. So,
Oh, okay.
so we have arsenic in the water and radon in the water. So you need treatment systems that need to be. So I want to do solar, but hunting, fishing, mechanics, machine design, small engine repair. Like, how many dudes out there know how to do this rather than spending so much time behind their fucking cell phones just bickering on the internet about what version of a Mark 12 they're the biggest boner for?
Couldn't be more fucking spot on. It's a sad state that we're in right now. I think it's vastly better than where we were at even 2 years ago, but it's definitely there's definitely some work that needs to be done. I think the community building's starting. I preach that shit on live TV all the fucking time with Aftermath Gear, my buddy Chris up in Philly. And it's what it all comes down to, man. If you can't fucking insulate your family from the bullshit, like, what the fuck are you actually doing?
Yep. And you preach that a lot. I see that on your page a lot. You you post your text posts where you're basically calling people out for their capabilities, or you're so hyper fixated on X, Y, and Z, but you're not doing X, Y, and Z. I see you post a lot of rebuttals too, like, I'm sorry I offended this group of people, but this is how I feel about this. Stop apologizing. I'm just kidding. You don't do
most. No. For the most part, it's not. The stuff I post that's inflammatory isn't necessarily to offend people. I think people have very delicate sensibilities.
Yeah.
The fucking day, I don't give a fuck about your feelings, bro. but I don't want people to be fixated on being butthurt. I want them to fixate on being solution oriented. So if you're so angry that you can't see the solution, I want you to draw it back with me, because I'm not trying to get you there. I want you to see the solution and start moving toward that on your own.
It sucks you have to offer that context in a postscript almost every other fucking time you post something where you're just trying to bring awareness to an aspect of someone's life. And I'm reading the comments, and there's so many fucking people that feel personally attacked.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Like, he's not attacking you. He just wants you to think outside the box. Why do you feel so personally attacked by it? And then you're wasting your energy trying to defend yourself with more context because people are unwilling to really just look at the bigger.
Yeah. Because that's at the end of the day, I know what my mission is to once again to bring that awareness, to get people there, because we're losing, quite frankly. Like, with the way the world's going right now, we're fucking losing. We're losing bad. So I don't need more people to be fucking offended and, diving further into their ignorance. I need them to be like, oh shit, that's the fucking light. Let me walk towards it and, maybe attempt some self-reliance here, because it's going to get catastrophically worse. We see all this shit ramping up. Every day you're seeing something new, like the fucking substation's getting attacked all the fucking time now. It's happening almost like once or twice every other month now. That's a pretty drastic uptick from the last 10 years.
Have
right?
they caught anyone?
So apparently the guy just caught someone in Tacoma. I don't buy it. Personally. They were like, oh, they were doing this for a robbery. And I was like, you know what? That was one of the three motives that I did. Either state funded, federal, or foreign or domestic, non-state, or someone's using it as a diversion to do something else. It's one of those three things. It's the only thing that makes any sense. And they were like, oh yeah, these guys, and they had the most bougie weapons. They had like a fucking sawed off Mosin Nagant, like just the goofiest weapons you could see. I was like, dude, that's not it.
Okay, Kyber Pass. Dude,
So,
that's not bougie. That's just like ratchet.
I want you to draw these lines with me right now. Just hear me out. So people that know me know I'm a fucking tinfoil hat to the fucking max, dude.
Yeah, you are very much. And it's great. No, but people, the things that I know from the people I've worked with, it's nothing surprises me at this point.
That's it. So the thing that drew my attention initially was the places that the attacks were happening, and they all were centrally located. I don't know if you know anything about Moore County or Pinehurst, or you know. I'm sure you do.
Enough.
Most densely populated area of soft and tier one fucking veterans, probably on the face of the fucking earth. It happens there, and then you start seeing some really weird kind of I don't know, laws dropping all of a sudden from the sheriffs and stuff like that, lockdown and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. This isn't worth a lockdown. What the fuck are you locking down Moore County for? And then it happened somewhere else, and they locked down that place. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to draw some fucking conclusions right now, because what's over in fucking Tacoma? First group and fucking second bat. And 160th fucking SOAR.
What's in Kansas? What was the one in Kansas? Like population 1,600 lockdown.
Fuck, what was that place? I can't remember the name right off the top of my head.
It started with a P. It was like,
Dude, I don't know, some butt fuck ass name, dude.
I've been literally to I've been to Possum Crossing, Kansas. Okay, like I've been to Humansville, Missouri. All right, like I've been to some fucking places, and I'm like, 1,600. Like, what the fuck is there that they're doing a lockdown? You know, like why?
See the fucking video?
No.
What, dude,
Kansas?
No, of the I think it was like their police chief or the mayor or something like that. Brother, I thought this was a video on Al Jazeera back in like 07, just prior to someone getting their fucking head cut off. This is what the video looked like. One person sitting down, super dim room, 4 dudes standing behind her looking like enforcers. I was like, this looks like literally Al Jazeera right now on TV. And this is in fucking nowhere, fucking Arkansas. And they locked that place down over 2 murders. 2 murders. They were like, oh, there's uptick in 2 murders, bro. I was like, go to fucking Chicago, bro. You'd have nuked that place. So,
dude.
But I'm like, and that's when I put out the post. I was like, dude, they're normalizing not lockdowns in front of your fucking eyes right now.
Well, they saw that it worked. They saw big government do it and everyone comply. So small government, dude, this is sorry to cut you off here. People don't understand that it's very easy to get involved in small government community. Yep. Like New Hampshire is probably one of the best small government communities. All politics are corrupt, but like, how many of you listening has gone down to your state house and actually been part of a hearing, like a debate on, there was a magazine ban proposition here in New Hampshire. We went down there and we all signed the petition, anti-magazine ban, and we listened to the person that wrote the anti-gun bill, and then listened to the board rebuttal, and then everyone could say their piece and sign up to speak. Like, how many people have actually done that, right? More people, 0. Yeah. How many people have actually gone down to the state house and done that? And I've only done it a couple times, but we have a very pro 2A governor here in New Hampshire, even though it's like, oh, you guys are blue on papers. Like, we have literally the most pro 2A governor in the United States. And we have the least amount of gun laws in the United States. Everyone's like, oh, you're a blue state. We actually have the best gun laws in the fucking state. And everyone's like, well, what about Arizona? Hey, that's actually a blue state now. But it's one of those things. People like think that being up in New Hampshire, like we're a fucked up state. No, we're actually the best, like hands down, bar none, the best fucking gun state. And but it's because there's, even though it's been blue governors, it'll flip. Like if there's a red governor, the state's blue. If it's a blue governor, the state's red. Like it flips back and forth, but it's so close, 50-50 almost, by like 0.1% that it'll flip every time. Yeah, no blue governor is going to pass anti-gun laws for fear of getting fucking killed, because it's such a fucking, outside of the 3 major cities, it's rural as fuck, farm as fuck, and fuck you as fuck. So, it's... Oh, I lost your audio.
Oh, shit.
Oh, now I hear you. There you go. It cut off for a sec.
No, that's amazing, dude. And that was, and that's healthy too. That's a super healthy fear for a politician to have. And it's funny because when I say that, I get labeled as an anarchist, a fucking you get labeled a whole bunch of shit. And I have to be careful a lot of times about what I fucking say on podcasts, but for the most part, I fucking send it, dude. So I'm like,
Anarchy
yeah,
is anarchy is a spectrum. People
yeah,
forget. And you say, "Oh, well, I'm more of a, I'm more of an anarchist." And then people are like, "Oh, you don't believe in government?" And I'm like, "No, I believe in local government. I
yeah,
don't believe in corporate greed government. Like I believe in small local governments doing and shot calling their own shit because the normal, Joe Schmo down the street has an opinion and people will actually fucking listen.
yeah,
Versus like even like raising chickens, right? That's anarchy. You're fending for yourself because you just don't want to buy pasteurized hormonal fucking eggs, right? You're going against the system, not vaccinating your kids because you don't know what's actually going into them. They say that this is recommended. Fuck that. Like all of these little facets are levels of anarchy. You teaching entry, that's anarchy. You're teaching someone something that can help them, but most people look as nefarious. Like your entry is homeschooling your kid. Or sorry, anarchy is
yeah.
like homeschooling your kids and not pulling a fucking building permit to move your shed. Like in New Hampshire, you pull a building permit to put your shed. If you have to move that shed, you have to pull another building permit. Like who the fuck wants to pull a building permit to move a shed?
No one.
Like why? Why do you have to pay to move a shed on your own fucking property?
Yeah,
Like that's anarchy. Just not pulling a permit to put your own fucking to actually do like let's say a generator hookup for your house. Like not pulling a permit to have and pay an electrician to come in. You just do it to code yourself because it takes 2 fucking seconds. Kill the power, get the correct gauge wire in your hookup, put a lockout on your fucking panel, and roll your fucking generator out. But you would need to pull a permit to do that. Like no, like why? So that's fishing in your own property and not buying a fucking fishing license. I think
yeah.
everyone should buy fishing licenses and hunting licenses because it does go to conservation. But in general, that's anarchy. People don't realize that's anarchy. Don't look at it as breaking the law. That's just mild anarchy in a certain spectrum. So
And I view laws as people don't like my views on that shit either. I think laws in general are, for the most part, generate revenue for the state. The other part of that, I don't equate laws with morality in the slightest. So like there are some look that will help you tell the government to go fuck off that people just aren't aware of, and then there are literal laws that are there to trample the fuck out of your fucking rights. So there's that too. And so me personally, I my my philosophy is do, literally do what the fuck you want, like legal or illegal. Understand the consequences. Don't bitch about the consequences when they come for you. That's been my thing. So very unsavory shit in my life. I'm at peace with the fuck with what I've done. I don't give a fuck. Because I knew the consequences that I know like what I'm risking if I go do this thing.
I typically like as long as I'm not hurt, as long as you're not hurting somebody, cool. Like you want to fucking smoke weed, smoke weed. You're not hurting anyone. You want to go fucking do something, you're not hurting somebody. You want to put a stock on your pistol. Fucking
Do it.
how many times have you ever bumped into an ATF agent who wanted to verify your fucking SBR? I've flown with belt-fed machine guns across this country. I had a TSA agent, dude. I had this fucking hoss of a human, big dude. He's just like, "Yo, I need to see inside a case." And I'm like, "All right, dude, sure." It's a belt-fed. He's like, "All right." He looks at it. He's like, "What's in there?" And it's a salt pack. I was like, "Ammo." That is the factory box that the ammo comes in. Okay, all right, legit. And then he goes, I mean, he was like a Houston. He was like, he was a old school cat from Houston. My wife carries a Glock 9. Like, I'm just like, dude, okay, I was a cop for 25 years. I carry a Shield 9 or something like that. I'm like, all right, just stop talking about guns to me. But he goes, I need you to open it. I need you to open the receiver. Hey, he didn't even say receiver. I need you to open that. Like, you want me to open the receiver? He's like, yeah, I need to see what's inside. I was like, the bullet carrier group, recoil spring assembly, gas piston, like it's like how the gun functions. He's like, I need to make sure you're not hiding explosives or drugs in there. I was like, who the fuck would hide drugs or explosives in a belt-fed machine gun traveling interstate? Like you're asking to get a TSA swab down anyway by traveling with loaded belts and a belt fed.
Yikes.
And he's like, what's that? I was like, bolt carrier. Is there any way you can hide something in here? I was like, probably, but why would I do that?
Sure, maybe a little bit of comp B if you want to get fucking spicy, I guess.
He goes, all right, lock your thing up. And I was like, all right, cool. And I reach for his, what are you doing? Why are you reaching for your gun? I was like, what the fuck? Like, you just told me to lock it up. Oh yeah, sorry. Clopping me, bro. I'm just like, oh my god, I fucking hate TSA, the most useless fucking federal agent ever.
Oh, 100%. I do have a question about your PKM. What do you have? Is it like pretty recently made, or is it like old school PK or actual like modernized?
Well, it's a Voltor receiver. I bought it from Larry Vickers.
Oh,
and it was a piece of shit from. So it was beat to shit, broken trigger pins. The extractor and ejection cover were out of timing, so I had to send it out to my buddies at M13 Vegas, and they did better. Also, I was having, because I was stovepiping with it, I was talking to some like alpha cats, and they were like, "Oh, just turn the gas setting up," and I'm like,
yeah, gas setting at the front of the fucking gas.
They told me I had suppressed too, so it was overgassed, and I undid that, no more suppressed. And then he's like, yeah, I mean, when I say out, like Russian alpha, like
yeah.
cat, he's just like, no, our suppressed guns, we just run on adverse setting 3, and I'm just like,
yeah.
I literally bent the receiver. So I was like, okay, not listening to fucking pick things up and put things down, alpha dudes. People like clean the gas ports. I was like, clean the gas ports every fucking belt? Like this is a PKM. Like that doesn't make sense. So unsuppressed, like too much blowback from suppressed. So I took that off. Douched it, cleaned it. M13 was like, stop running it suppressed. Like, but it's so cool. It was pretty rad suppressed, but it was just way too, the rate of fire was insane. Bolt carrier wasn't uncorking at the right timing. Everything was out of timing. And because it was overgassed, somehow it was like flexing the receiver so that the bolt carrier was actually putting pressure on the trigger pin assembly and breaking trigger pins.
Oh.
And that was happening before I suppressed it. So I had to have custom trigger pins made. Tried to buy Noveski's PKM trigger pin. I had to like order all kinds of shit. So I have like all these extra pins now.
Yeah.
I don't think PKMs are as resilient as people really think.
They are, and they come with really specific issues depending on where you get them.
Yes.
The ones that we shoot from Bulgaria, those have a pitting issue for the bolt head, the bolts. So I don't know if it's the corrosive ammo that's causing the pitting, or if it's like chamber pressure, or I don't know what it is, because we've had it out of I think the 16 PKMs we have, I think 14 have succumbed to that.
Yes.
Issues. So we're like, maybe it's probably the ammo.
Are you hosing them down with Windex after?
No.
So that's how you beat corrosive ammo. Windex. Ammonia is opposite pH. So you can, after you shoot them, you can hose them down with Windex and then do your cleaning regime. Typically prevents corrosion from penetrating metal. So yeah, Windex is like the cure-all for corrosive ammo. I was talking to a buddy, Taylor, and he was just like, dude, people think PKMs are the end-all be-all fucking GPMG. They beat themselves to death. They are married with 2 barrels, and when those barrels are hot swapped and shot out, they are fucking useless until you get them rebuilt and headspace to a new set of barrels. and those barrels have to be matched. And if they're not, you can't just like buy PKM barrels and throw them in. Like you can get lucky. I have like 5 barrels, but they're so finicky at that point that the timing, the unlocking, switching between bolt carriers, like everything is built around the 2 factory barrels and the factory gun.
Also, have you ever had any issues with the ejection port assist breaking on the inside?
No, mine was just bent from.
Dude, we had that happen on 2 of ours, and so we taught some SF dude pretty much like, if this happened, no, it wasn't an SF dude, it was a Marsoc guy. If this happens to happen to you downrange, because once that happens, the weapon's pretty shock. It's gonna prevent your bolt from being able to retract all the way to the rear. It'll stop it pretty much midway every single fucking time. So essentially, you have to like slam the bolt forward. You have to like go in with like a literal set of pliers and like rip that little C clamp off.
Yeah.
And you have to like smack off the obviously the retain for the ejection port cover, and literally just remove the entire ejection port cover, and then from there you can shoot it. it'll function, but obviously something getting inside of your fucking PKM is very likely at that point.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I prefer my M4 type Pilato posties to not even have a fucking recoil buffer spring detent in them. I've broken detents and
Dude, live a dangerous life.
Why?
I don't know. I guess I'm just indoctrinated that I've always had them. So
no, dude. You stick your finger in there, and when you're assembling them, you just fucking spring load it, and it sits at the back. There's no reason why you can't have it that way. And I in one of those SUT classes that I took with my buddy, I blew that apart, and we had to like mortar my gun to get it apart because I had springs wedged in between the bolt carrier and upper receiver, because that whole assembly just blew apart. And I ran it like 3,000 more rounds that week without a detent and spring holding the buffer back. And I was talking to my buddy, I was like, is there any reason why this won't work? And he's like, no, it just makes field servicing the weapon harder because now it's under tension.
yeah,
And it just kind of blows apart. When you pull it apart, you just kind of have to grab the spring and capture it real quick. But there's really no reason why it wouldn't, because the bolt carrier is still against that face. The bolt
right.
carrier still sits within a millimeter of that face. If there's a millimeter of over travel from the buffer, and there's no more forward travel from the bolt carrier, it's just a ease of disassembly and servicing.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And you no longer have it camming. You start seeing those teeth marks around your buffer. You no longer have it camming against that face. So
Yeah, I'm indoctrinated, dude.
you are. It's fine though. It's I'm a mechanical engineer, bro. I'm just like, I don't see what the problem is. So why would I care?
Oh, there's I don't think they're engineers. I think they're all just like foreign weapons mechanics that work at this place that I go to. But there's this like old like 275 guy there. He's like the head shabalaba ding dong, but he does like all the like really weird testing. And so like when I asked him about the whole pitting problem with the bolt, he recommended some fucking wild shit. I'm obviously mention his name. Like, why don't we drill a small hole ever so inside of the bolt just to relieve some of that pressure? I was like, this gun's gonna blow up in your fucking face. But he's just got like mad scientist vibes. Like he's just like, what would happen? And dude's wicked smart. And he's just like, I'm gonna do some tinkering today. And so it's like, dude, you put me behind some glass, I'll watch that with you. Do a 1,000 round test on that bad boy. I will watch that with you.
I mean, he's not necessarily wrong. Hold on. So I bought a Springco green rifle length buffer spring accidentally a few weeks ago and put it in my Knight's Armament 11.5 and carbine buffer tube. And I'm like, I'm testing buffer spring weights because I usually don't fuck with weights, but like you can't gas tune a fucking Knights. And switching to like a heavy buffer is causing like too much return recoil, so like the gun tipping down. I'm like, all right, it's already an H2 from CAC. I'm running a high flow can, which is only adding like 1 to 3% bolt speed increase. So the only way I can tune this Knight's Armament gun is with springs. That's what I came to the conclusion. So I ended up, everyone's like, get the Voltor rifle length buffer with this, that. I was like, I don't want it. It's a fucking CQB gun. I want the carbine length. I ended up buying the green spring accidentally, and I put it in there. And it perfect fucking super soft shooter, 3 o'clock ejection, fucking nothing. The only thing is, and people are like, oh well, it's the wrong length spring. And I'm like, well, if you compare a standard power fucking carbine spring to a slightly higher powered carbine spring, so Springco's white versus Springco's red and white, they're a 1/4 inch difference already.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already more spring being compressed in this buffer tube when you switch to a slightly higher powered spring. And then I started looking at the different springs and comparing them. A standard weight spring isn't getting thicker and girthier. They're just elongating it by spring length.
Right.
And I'm like, so what's the fucking problem putting a rifle spring in with a carbine buffer into a carbine length buffer tube? Everyone's like, no, it's just going to compress too much and crash. Yeah, but it's only a difference of like 0.375 from the second highest powered spring for a carbine that they're recommending, but it is a slightly smaller gauge wire, so it's a little bit softer compression. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Then I started going down the fucking rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh, well, this rifle company, their carbine length spring is the same as their rifle length spring for their 308 guns. So why is having a rifle length spring and a carbine bad? And then you go on Reddit and you get all these people like, well, obviously carbine length is for carbines and rifle is for rifle. Otherwise, like, why would they sell them? And all these people are like telling you it's wrong. So I called my buddy who is a co-owner of Type A Rifle Cut. I was like, Chris, what, am I doing something wrong? He's like, no, does it work? And I was like, yes. He's like, all right. What we basically figured out is, okay, it's already under compression. So it's not like a carbine link spring that's relaxed and you're starting the compression cycle. It's already under compression. So it's like a compound bow. You've already overcome some of the hard part.
Right.
So it already starts its fucking thermal system and its kinetic system. Everything is already started with pre-tension on the spring. And it ended up being like perfect ejection, super soft shooting, fucking bolt lockback is fine. The gun fucking runs like a goddamn sewing machine for a CAC that's already overgassed because it's a battle proven. And I'm like, what's the cons here? He was like, honestly, the only cons I can find is you might put a little bit more tension impact on your bolt detent, or your bolt carrier detent. And I started looking at the CAC detent after shooting it, moving the position of the bolt carrier, or the buffer face, and rotating it and testing different springs, and it still beats it up regardless. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, fucking, that's not a problem. He's like, yeah, this spring's gonna wear out in X amount of rounds that we don't know yet. Works great. It's already starting its system under fucking pressure or tension. He's like, run it, dude. Just run the fuck out of it. So I started messing with all their spring weights, and I went from like normal all the way up to their blue, all the way up to their super heavy springs, and I'm starting to get like ejection over the shoulder, which is undergassed. So, right now I'm running like a red white, which is 1 step up in spring tension from a standard power spring, and it's like at the 4 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm just gonna put the rifle back in. I'm just gonna put the fucking rifle back in, get perfect 3 o'clock with perfect fucking run
Yeah.
that gun super fucking soft and fast, and it'll just wear out faster. Like,
Yeah. I mean, are you tracking like the fucking I can't remember the word for it, but you pretty much are you tracking the life cycle of the spring?
I
Or
will. I'm going to. I only had like I was only putting like 3 or 4 mags through each of these springs, basically tracking my dot travel, how much vertical I'm getting from my dot under like 0.1 split cadence, and okay, like at 30 yards at this target, how high is my dot tracking under a fast cadence trigger pull?
right.
And my ejection. Ejection will always be king. Oh, cool. I'm ejecting at 3 o'clock every fucking time. That is the perfect system. Not under gas, not over gas. That's the perfect fucking system for an AR. It's 3 o'clock. So I'm probably just gonna put the rifle spring back in it and fucking test it. Because what am I gonna hurt? A fucking buffer tube, a spring detent, spring, and whatever. I can't damage more than like $60 in parts.
Yeah.
Anyway, wow. Well, we talked about entry for a bit. We definitely covered a lot of the basics of entry, at least getting started for the listeners. We talked about like frequency analyzers and digital entry. Um, Anything else you can think of off the top of your head, real quick, just to put people in the right direction for stuff we haven't talked about?
Uh, Not that I can think of right now. My brain's fucking mush. But if anyone has any questions, just go ahead and contact me on the Sky Pirate Actual page, or you can go over to the Cloaked Entry page on IG, and just drop a fucking question. I'll be happy to answer it for you. If I don't, my wife will get to it. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for being our guest on the ANR Design episode 28 podcast, Unholstered podcast. And that's a wrap.
Fucking wrap.